Hi, I'm Steve from the Infamy team, and we are hosting fantasy Valorant tournaments over on our Discord, link in the description. So sign up and choose the best team of Valorant players for Stage 3 NA Challengers 1. That'll be up as soon as qualifiers are over, so first week of July. But go join the Discord, chat up some Valorant Esports, and get ready to pick your team for the next one. Today I'm going to be doing kind of a mid-season review for Overwatch League 2021, kind of focus through power rankings as well. As you can see, I have my preseason power rankings from my previous video up here, and we're gonna try to fix these up a bit because things have changed. But overall for the season, I think it's been pretty successful. I did a quick little poll on Reddit, and people seem pretty happy, except for the obvious, this June Joust meta has not been great. A lot of like Moira rush with Reaper, so all the fan favorites out. But hopefully next season, with hero pools removed, we'll get a little more diversity, and hopefully APAC teams can get their shit together, because right now NA is looking pretty dominant. It's pretty funny, people actually are like, Shanghai's at a huge disadvantage because they have no one good to play against. So it's like they like kill their way through the competition, and then by the time they get to the Hawaii tournament, they have to level up through that, which is kind of what happened in the June Joust. They got wrecked by Fuel because who plays one who's playing that comp and who's playing it at the Fuel's level, and then they leveled up throughout the series. So still a lot of potential, but I don't know, it's looking shaky in the rest of APAC. But let's get to this power ranking, and I'm pretty sure there's only two teams worthy of the S+ tier here. And that's Fuel and Dragons. I'm actually going to put Fuel ahead of Dragons, even though they just lost to them. But I think they've just displayed such like dominance, and no matter what you try to make them play, they're going to do what they want, because their teamwork and just individual skill is just next level. Hopefully Pine coming in next stage is like what they need, because there's a lot of maps that are you just need a hit scan, and the meta could shape that way. But I still think they could still pull off a lot of just Doha, Sparkle nonsense, especially if Pine is not feeling it. That way they can still continue to use Pine as kind of like that off-the-bench player, that 6th man or 7th man that he was back in his heyday. And Dragons, yeah, still looking good. A lot of flexibility. I was a little surprised how well they made their ball adjustments work in the tournament, so definitely still look out for. But Shock literally just broke that Shock has lost Striker, who has kind of been pulling him along this whole season. Every time they try a different DPS lineup without him, it doesn't quite work. So, losing a straight, consistent MVP candidate every year is gonna hurt you, especially at like who's picking up that Tracer, that Violet Tracer? Maybe, but definitely only these two here. In fact, I don't really think anyone deserves to even get close, so let's move everyone down to A. There is no S. There's that gap between them. However, in the A tier, I'd actually put Gladiators in first here, which, they definitely had a rocky start, and towards the end of the June Joust, they were looking pretty solid. Even, out of all the teams other than Dragons, I feel like they're the only one that gave Fuel any kind of working. And it looks like, off to a slow start with the new team, the new pieces, but it's definitely a storyline to watch, is if they can actually start to ramp it up here. Kevister's in LA, so no ping. Let's see if he's actually the DPS god everyone claims. And yeah, definitely the team in NA to watch this stage. Next, this might be a little biased. I'm a Florida fan, but I think they got it. I think people are a little sleeping on them a tad, because they weren't too explosive this stage. They kind of came out of nowhere in the first tournament. Like, they fought their way through the through the knockouts and somehow upset Washington pretty cleanly. But I think they just have like none of those concerns preseasons of like OG or whatever. I was a little concerned about Slime, still a bit, but I don't think it really is hindering them much. I think they just have a solid team that will always be able to do pretty well. Won't have problems with these other teams that are lower, but in the same tier, it's a little hard to say. Because I'd say all these tiers within themselves are very close, but pretty far apart from the ones above and below them. So next, I'm gonna go Philly. Philly's kind of been shooting themselves in the foot. Like they've looked really good at times, but just have started to dwindle and kind of choke in big games that they should have, like what they lost to New York, and that kind of screwed their chances of getting into the tournament. And they lost that really close game to Shanghai in the knockouts for the previous tournament. So, and visa issues are starting to lessen. Hopefully they can get the rest of the team in. I'm not sure. I think the Funny Astro swap in should be pretty big. I think the Poco Hoppa one's a little negligible, but I think really just getting in the extra DPS players, like I think Shockwave being in is a key, because you can see Carpe really getting stretched thin, so having those alternative people to throw in there will be key. And hopefully they keep Rascal. I know he was kind of like, people were saying he was a temporary fit in kind of along with Toby and Hoppa, but I don't think that was the case. I think he was actually intended to be a full season sign, which why wouldn't he? Okay, after Philly, I'm gonna go Washington. I don't really have much to say for this. If Decay plays, they're great. But if he doesn't, they're more around this area. So I'm gonna go under the assumption that Decay decides to play, and they just continue to grow. Support line has been a little problematic, but I don't think so bad that they're going to lose to any of these teams below them, except maybe this one. It's hard to say. Shock has not looked themselves. Before losing Striker, I could easily have them either above or behind Gladiators, but it just does not evoke confidence losing one of your highest profile players. I'm not sure what that means for the team situation, how everyone's feeling. If they couldn't convince him to not leave mid-season, probably not the highest morale going on. But it worked for them last time when he will not be named left. They lost one All-Star, and people stepped up. So maybe this will be what kicks Glister into gear to kind of achieve what he's meant to be achieving when he came onto this team. And Nero, these guys thought they were getting a free ride. We made a video about like we'll ride the bench as long as we're on a good team and kind of get to show our best. But now they're gonna have to step up because you're lacking over there in the DPS department. Tayo, bring it. let's go. Let's get your third game in of your career in Overwatch League, and hopefully impress. And I had the Hunters pretty high in my original power rankings, and they started off proving me right, but haven't really been showing up this as of late. I still think they're a contender. They're in there, but definitely not messing with these top dogs at the moment. But who really surprised me, I was, I'm tempted to not do this, but I guess I will. I'll bring Rain all the way up here because, they earned it. They did pretty well in the last tournament. I really thought the tank line would kind of prevent them from winning in certain metas, and it kind of has, but overall. But I think the Gator Winston was looking fine. A few fat fingers, nothing too bad, but really it just comes down to Pelican being a harder carry than anyone could have imagined, even though he was super hyped up coming in. But let's see if he can continue to work that through multiple metas, and really if everyone else can just keep picking up the slack. After Atlanta, another team I chose to rate pretty low, preseason was Seoul. Still as ever inconsistent as they have been. Maybe it's because they're up against, worse competition APAC, but they're looking better than the rest, I guess. So, and I feel like if you did plop them in NA, it wouldn't be a travesty. They could hang pretty well, maybe take some maps above the guys in these A tiers. But, yeah, it's not that I'm that impressed with Seoul. It's kind of more that I'm not impressed with anyone below them here. So, which moves us to the Spark, which are kind of just as questionable as Seoul. You could really interchange these two because you don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. They might show up, they might have a great stage, and then they might choke at the very end against New York. So it's really hard to tell. It seems like they are starting to get their groove, playing shy, and hopefully they maybe try some more of their Chinese players, swap them in there just to freshen things up. But still standing by. They have the talent, and it's really just can they pull it together in time to even make play-ins and hopefully playoffs. So we shall see. And then again, just B tier is just me being wrong. Houston Outlaws. I'm not sold on Houston. They started out great, but they've been having this super easy schedule the entire season, and I do not like this Dreamer Jungwoo nonsense that they have going on. I was a big fan of Dreamer, and I wanted him to get picked up in the offseason. I knew he would, but I don't think that was the right move. Their tank line was kind of grooving, and unless you're just not confident in Jungwoo's Winston or Ball or something, I guess you can put in Dreamer, but it just seems like a waste, and you're just kind of messing with your own chemistry. And the Happy Dante line's been really solid. There's some suspect stuff going on with the support line, but it doesn't seem to be that bad. Jake on the brig coming through. I don't know. We'll see. I would not be surprised if they drop way lower than this. I'm not expecting them to make playoffs or anything like that, overall playoffs. But right now, I think the N to B is where they belong. And see, it gets a little sticky down here, but you know what? I'll give it to New York. Their DPS line looking good. Tank line, not so much. Maybe could have seen Dreamer go there instead. I think he definitely deserves to be starting main tank, and Yakpun's not doing it. It's hard to tell how much Bianca's to blame because it just seems like overall the tank line is just falling apart. So that could be both of them, one of them, their chemistry, whatever. But I think there's still hope for the season for them, even though there wasn't too much expectation on them going in. I think they now have earned some respect managing to sneak in, even though I don't think they won a map in the June Joust. But we'll have to see if the tank line can pull it together. I don't know if you blame the tanks, the coaching staff, but they just seem a little lost. So maybe a new meta will be just what they need. And Defiant, I really like Defiant all season. I just, losing some players to COVID-related issues has been rough, especially I think Hisu and Logix, which are pretty vital pieces, I'd say. Even people weren't sure what Logix was going to be doing, but I think he looked pretty good when he was in and not super disconnected, probably because of the roles he plays. Yeah, so we'll have to see. I think they've looked solid. They've looked like maybe gatekeepers to the middle tier in NA, and capable of even pulling some maps off for some higher teams. So we'll see. I could see them, creeping up to where Atlanta is next stage, or maybe plummeted down with the Breadsticks crew. Who knows? But the Paris Eternal have kind of impressed me. I don't think there's been any super weak links, especially since they replaced Neptuno. And yeah, I totally think they're a team that you need to be prepared for going in, no matter how high up you are, because they can steal a game off you. And I think that just their chemistry is going to bring them some wins. And hopefully it'll grow them, to be more than the sum of their parts. But that is all for C. Now let's get to the failing grades down here. And Boston, still disappointing. I had much higher hopes for them, and I do think losing soon was a blow, because it forced Valentine to play Tracer that whole stage, and he could not pull off the Sparkle miracle. And while there were some moments they had in the June Joust, it still isn't looking put together. Who knows? It's up in the air for Boston. They could go up. They could more than likely just stay where they are right now. And Guangzhou looked tragic, still a bit on the tragic side. Who knows? Honestly, down here is just a fustercluck, so we'll see. They were starting to pull it together. Maybe they could climb up to like B tier or so, but right now I think they are squarely down there. And down to the F boys, I've actually kind of liked Vancouver. They've not earned breadsticks, but they have earned some respect. I think especially like Teru, hopefully with the new main tank, some more time getting him involved. I think a solid main tank could really turn around the whole team, especially because a lot of the pieces, they don't look super bad. I think that they have potential to maybe not be F tier and maybe get to a map 5. We'll see. Pizza Hut, lower the bar again, or just I don't even know. Win a map, that'd be great. Have they done that? I'm sure they have. They shouldn't have though, but no, I have some faith in Vancouver. Less so these last two. I'll be real. My brain shuts off every time Valiant play. I don't care. I really don't. But London has just been extra atrocious, so I'm gonna put them in, just for the shame. I'm gonna put them in last place here behind Valiant, because they just are getting bopped left and right in NA. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. A and B, I think they're pretty distinct. I think they're, like I said before, they're really close with each other, but I think pretty far from A and B. I think within the A tier, you can mix this up a lot, but those are your big teams, your big challengers to the top two in the Dragons and Fuel. And then B tier, I think there is, right now they're looking solid, but a lot of these guys could go up. I'd like to see the Hunters reclaim some tournament juice, some forward momentum here. And I don't know, it's really hard to say with Rain. Their DPS is looking so good, but it just feels a bit like might have been a fluke, or a good meta for them. But maybe with Ryan back in, if they can incorporate that'll be good for them. Who knows? This is all rampant speculation, and yeah, this looks good to me. I could see Paris maybe moving up to the top of C tier. Look out. But yeah, okay, so moving on. I also wanted to get to the MVP picks right now. So it's looking pretty clear to me that the front runners are Sparkle, Fearless, and Lip. Traditionally, the best regular season teams, that's where the MVP comes from. So, and as it should be, because these teams have been the best teams, the best players. People put Fearless as first, usually, like the front runner, just because from his amazing show, Stage 1. But I think Sparkle is really kind of has the better, I don't know if track record's the right word, but just, pulling off that amazing Tracer Stage 1, and then just continuing to be just an unstoppable force on no matter what he plays. Who's pulling out the Genji, who's pulling out the Doomfist, just Sparkle really, and he's making it look great. So I think if he continues that, I think he's kind of my number one pick right now. And then a little less prominent is Lip, who's just been amazing. And kind of the only standout from the Dragons, I feel. Like, others have had their moments, of course, like Fate, last tournament on the Wrecking Ball, but just like every meta, every hero he plays, like Tracer, McCree, whatever, Lip has been phenomenal. So I think if the Dragons start to overtake the Fuel more often, I think he's looking like a potential MVP winner. And then 3 guys that I think are not in the front race here, but they're still in it. It would be Pelican, Leave, and Hanbin. And Pelican is he really just had a breakout stage, and if he continues that trajectory, if the meta goes towards heroes where he gets to keep doing these flashy carry plays and Atlanta can kind of stay in the conversation, I think you might want to look towards him. But I just don't see Atlanta being a top team, and I don't see them giving MVP to a player on a not top team when there are guys like Sparkle, Fearless, and Lip who totally deserve it and are pulling out the wins. So definitely an MVP Rookie of the Year candidate, like frontrunner, I'd say, along with, Mag and Gaga, I guess, but definitely Pelican looking like Rookie of the Year, but we still have another half a season, so we'll see. And Leave has also been kind of insane every game, every meta, so I think if Chengdu makes a reappearance at the top tier, he could start to be thrown in the conversation. And Hanbin, the silent carry, dude, he's been absurd all year, and it's hard to imagine getting it over someone like Fearless or Sparkle. Like if you're gonna give it to someone on Dallas, like it would be one of those two, but I'd still like to imagine he's being considered because he's just been so good and rock solid, and still, like, once again, another half a year, so we'll see if he maybe starts to shine a little more depending on the meta. And then I think these are the only other people here in this third tier that would be considered. And we have Gaga, Yaki, Happy, Shu, Decay, Lee Jae Gong, and Mag. And I'd say they're still like on that list, but they definitely haven't shown enough to even really be considered with these 6 guys above them. If I had to choose some people that might make it happen, I think it would really depend on who can make their team start winning. I'd want to say Happy just because individually he's really good, but I don't have faith in Houston as a whole. And once again, I don't see them like handing MVP to someone on a lackluster team. And Gaga started off looking really good, but now the Chengdu's kind of gone downhill a bit. Yaki, I think, is always going to be in the conversation, and again, it just all depends on how their teams do. So I have kind of like a big group of like the who I had in my A tier or whatever, and yeah, if any of those break into the S or S plus tier, then these will be the guys to make it happen, and as a result, they'd be bolstered up into the MVP conversation. So those are how I have it breaking down right now. Overall thoughts on the season, I think it's been really good. I think that loosening up the candor and professionalism of the desk and the casters, letting them kind of get a little more raunchy has been a major plus, because the talent has always been top tier, and it's about time they started leaning on them and using them more. And I want to credit, Hex and Mr. X for taking on a more producer role, and I feel like they can be accredited to this new direction that has been very successful. At least in execution. Performance-wise for Overwatch League, still middling compared to past to other esports or even their own early seasons. But, it's still the YouTube asterisks they got going. I think YouTube's way better to view on YouTube, but it's harder to get that exposure that you once did on Twitch. Like, I think Overwatch League was one of the highest watch streams on Twitch at some point. So just having a more gaming focused platform is going to give you an edge there. Hopefully, it'd be nice if they could. I know they're counting on this YouTube money to keep the lights on, I imagine, but some multi-platform streaming opportunities would be good. Maybe some special, I don't know, just getting back on Twitch a little would help in some way, I think. And just promoting it more. I think they've gotten a little better, but it's still, I feel like people don't even know what's going on. But that are my thoughts. That are me thoughts. What do you think of the season so far? Who do you think's gonna win? I still have Fuel, but I'm looking at Washington and maybe even Philly. I think Philly's getting kind of slept on, maybe because the APAC has been looking so tragic, but I think they have potential. I have Gladiators up here high. I could see them doing well, but I think they're gonna choke. I just don't have the faith. And I also have Shock pretty low, but this could be kick they need. Like, someone's gonna have to step up and fill Striker's big shoes. Hopefully not everyone tries to step up at once and you get a big mess, but we will see. And yeah, like I said in the beginning, we are hosting fantasy Valorant tournaments over on our Discord. Choose 5 players from the competing teams based on our rules and limitations to get the best combination of highest scoring players. I'm Steve from the Infamy team. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.